fantastic recipe. It makes a great bread, and it's super simple to make, and I think you'll really enjoy it. The ingredients needed to make our whole wheat bread are very simple. We're going to need 2 cups of warm water, 1½ teaspoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, ½ teaspoon of sugar or honey, 2 cups of regular white flour, 2 cups of whole wheat flour, and a package of dry yeast. We start by taking our warm water and pouring it into our bowl. This bread is really, really tasty. It's very quick to make, and it's very similar to what you would purchase in the supermarket or a bakery or whatnot. Most people don't realize it, but most whole wheat breads are made with a half and half mixture. Otherwise, if you make it with all whole wheat flour, your bread will come out very dense, and that's enjoyable too in certain circumstances. But today we're going to make this, and we will make the denser, what most people know as a German whole wheat bread, on another day. This is great for an all-purpose whole wheat bread. So we take our 2 cups of water, we put that into our bowl. We're going to take our salt and put that in as well. We're going to take about ½ teaspoon of sugar and put that in there as well. We're going to take our olive oil, 2 tablespoons, put that in as well. We're going to take our yeast and put that in as well. We're going to stir that up. Make sure it's thoroughly incorporated. Make sure you have everything going. You want to get that chemical reaction started. You want to get that yeast working. So you just stir that all up really well and let that sit for a few minutes. You let it sit until you see a little white foam on the top. So we'll just let that sit, cover it, and let it sit for a few moments. As you can see, we have a little bit of a foam reaction there in the center. And we can proceed from there. I like to add a little bit of honey. You can omit the sugar altogether. We just put that in there to feed the yeast a little bit, but I do like to add about ½ teaspoon of honey as well. I like to use organic, and as far as the salt, I use sea salt where that's concerned. But I like to add this just to give it a little bit of the taste. This is a fantastic wildflower honey, and it gives a really nice taste to the bread. Like I said, most whole wheat breads that you buy at the supermarket are actually a half and half mix. Even if the label says whole wheat on it, it's a half and half, half regular bleached white flour and half whole. The honey gives it an extra dimension where taste is concerned. Once the honey's in, we're going to take our flour and start adding that. I'm going to start by adding the whole wheat flour, half of it at this point, maybe a little more than half of it, and stirring that in. I'm going to start adding regular flour. Add a little bit of that. Making your own whole wheat bread at home will avoid a lot of the preservatives and additives. If you look on your regular store-bought whole wheat bread, there's going to be a very long list of ingredients. You don't need any of them in your bread. All you usually need in your bread is oil, salt, yeast, and water, and the flour, of course. So this is a far healthier way of having a whole wheat bread, and a far tastier. I mean, there is nothing like homemade bread. It really, definitely well worth doing, learning how to make, and it's really quite simple. So as you can see, it's starting to come together now. You want to let that soak in and absorb so that it's completely mixed. I like to whip it up a little bit. The more air you get in there, the more your bread will rise. So even now, even whipping it now, makes a huge difference to how much your bread is going to rise later on. We'll also be kneading this a little bit, so that's going to give it some rice too. So we finish up here by adding in our regular flour. Add the rest of our whole wheat flour. Make sure you scrape through at the bottom too and get all that out of the bottom. Just keep folding over from the bottom to the top. Almost like kneading it with your spoon. Turn the bowl around, get everything out of the edges and corner there. Now at this point, the breads come together. And I'm going to have to get in there and knead it. I use the spoon up until that point because it is a little sticky and there's no need to get your hands all in there when it's that sticky. You can wait till it gets to this point, and kneading it is far easier at that point also. So you flour it well and then just start pulling out from the corners to the center. I like to flip it over and make sure that I do have the bottom. The more you knead it, the more your bread will rise. And you can already see the reaction as you're kneading. You add a little bit more flour there. Like I said, just pull out from the corner to the center. Press down. And keep doing that. It's not a lot of work. It's actually quite easy to do. And it goes really quickly. You don't have to knead your bread for hours. I think that's another misconception. I mean, you can if you'd like to, but it's really not necessary. Okay, that's good. As you can see, our dough's come together. It's in a nice ball. And we're just going to cover that now. Make sure it's well floured. Some people like to oil it. I like to flour it. Take all the flour off the bottom. Just cover it with a lid and let it sit for about an hour or till double in size. It's been about an hour now. Bread has risen, as we can see. Oops, stuck to the lid too. As we can see, it's risen nicely. It's more than doubled in size. And what we're going to do is dust it with a little flour. Knead it again. Make sure it's well floured. And at this point, it's ready to shape into our loaves. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make one round loaf and one loaf in a loaf pan. So to do that, we're going to take out our loaf pan and we're going to brush them with oil so our bread doesn't stick. Just lightly brush them with some olive oil. Make sure it's well oiled. This way your bread slips out easily. Loaf pans can be funny sometimes. Make sure you get it all the way up into the edges there. Just a light coating is all you really need, but you do want to make sure you get it thoroughly coated. Once that's done, we take our bread, and we cut it in half. I'm going to take our 1/2 of our dough. I'm going to knead it a little bit. There's a little bit of flour left here at the bottom, so I'm just going to use that. And we're just going to pop it into our loaf pan, like so, and press it down in there. And make sure it reaches the edges. Don't be afraid to press down on your dough. Don't be afraid of your dough. Press it in there well. Like so. I'm going to take our other half. I'm going to knead that as well into a nice round loaf. You just kind of take the outside, pushing in towards the center on the bottom until you have a nice round shape like so on the top. Put that in your pan and press down on that as well. Like I said, don't be afraid of your dough. It's a nice round loaf there. At this point, what we want to do is prepare it to go in the oven. We're going to let it rise for about 1/2 hour, 20 minutes. What we want to do, there are 2 types of finishes. You can have a softer crust, or you can have a nice crispy crust. So for the round loaf, I would prefer that it have a nice crispy hard crust. So I'm just going to leave it be. I'm not going to brush it down with oil or water or anything like that. But I am going to cut it. I'm going to give it a cut. I'm going to cut across into it. I'm going to cut crosswise into it. So you just cut across into it like so. I'm going to let that aside. This one I want to have a nice soft top to it so I can slice it and use it as sliced bread, sliced whole wheat bread. So I'm going to brush it with a little bit of oil and water. Just a little bit. And that's going to give it a nice softer finish. And then I'm also going to cut that right down the center. I'm just going to give that a nice cut right along the center. You're not cutting all the way down to the bottom. And as that rises, that will split open nicely. So we have a cut down the center on this one, a cross cut on this one. And we're just going to let these sit for a while. We're going to let them sit for about 1/2 hour, 40 minutes. We're going to cover them, let them rise. We're also going to preheat our oven to 350. And when we come back, these will be ready to pop in the oven. They'll have risen to where we want them to be. You don't want to let them rise too much because they can accumulate too much air and deflate when you pop them in the oven. So you do want to give them about 1/2 hour, 40 minutes, let them rise, let them almost double in size, just about double in size. As I said, the oven will be preheated to 350. We'll be able to pop them in. They take about 10-15 minutes to cook, and we'll have our fresh bread. Our bread is ready to go into the oven. It's risen nicely, as we can see. As we said, this is going to have a hard crust. This is going to have a softer crust, easier for slicing. I'm going to pop these in, and they should be ready, just bake them until they're golden brown on top. They should be ready in about 10 or 15 minutes. Our bread is ready. It's out of the oven. As you can see, we got a couple of really nice loaves out of this. What we want to do, as we can see, because we oiled our pan, our bread slips out easily. So we're just going to lift it and set it over the edge of the pan and let it cool, or set it on a wire rack of the pan and let it cool like that. Our second loaf is also ready. As you can see, we got a really nice rise out of that, a really nice sized loaf. And we're going to set that on the edge of the pan, very hot, and let it cool as well. They're very nicely done on the bottom, very nicely done on the top. This is nice loaf there. This as well is a very nice loaf. Has a nice color on the bottom, nice color on the top. They're ready to slice now. They're cool enough to slice. So we're gonna always use a serrated knife when you slice your bread. And we're gonna try doing this like this. As you can see, this has a softer crust, which is perfect for slicing bread. Slices up very nicely. Still a little on the warm side. Makes a great loaf of bread. You can slice as thin or as thickly as you like. And that gives us a really nice, as you can see, lovely color on all sides. A very healthy bread. This is really way better than anything you'll get at the supermarket. You can skip all the additives and the preservatives and the long list of things you can't pronounce that aren't good for you at all. It's very wholesome, very tasty, and comes in very handy if you like bread. Just set it on the side like that. These both make a very, very nice bread. I'm trying to slice it on the thinner side. As you can see, again, came out very, very, very nice. Great color. Very tasty. Like I said, nothing compares to freshly baked bread right out of your oven. I hope you enjoy it. It's a really easy recipe. I think it'll be some of the easiest bread that you'll make. Very quick, no hours and hours of labor, no waiting overnight, and really a fantastic bread all around. Great for many uses. Anything you might want to use a whole wheat bread for, this works really well. I hope you try it. I hope you like it. And until next time.